I don't doubt the powers of trance-like states. I think that is a possible thing. It's like hypnotism. It happens. So I'm basically trusting that they're using the good powers of hypnotism and trusting that everything else they say is what they're doing it for.
You just sit there and just like kind of relax yourself.
I understand, but I don't want to. My point is I don't want to get relaxed and fall under the trance.
You're not going to fall under any trances.
What's that all about?
1, 2, 3, 4.
This is Unplanned America, where you're invited to join Gonz, Parv, and me, Nick, as we flee Australia to road trip around the land of the free in search of the weird, wonderful, mysterious, and sometimes scary unplanned side of America. In this episode, we get high in the mountains and face our darkest fears in a shamanistic healing ceremony fueled by the mind-altering powers of a shitload of cannabis. Should I be worried about anything?
First of all, you should not be worried about anything. You can't stop the fact that you are going to have worries, but you don't need to be worried. We're going to address those worries.
We were about to embark on a spiritual quest, the likes of which we had never experienced before. We're on our way to buy cannabis edibles for the shamanistic ceremony that we're about to go through tonight in the mountains of Colorado. We're in Denver. They got shitloads of dispensaries because weed is legal here. Gonzo is an atheist skeptic.
An agnostic, borderline atheist.
If I had to categorise myself, it'd be in the same. It'd be, skeptic, agnostic, but more of a happier, sort of positive one than Gonzo is.
Not negative at all. I just like living in the moment and appreciating things for what they are. I don't need to seek justification from a higher realm to maybe enjoy everything that happens during the day.
Yeah, but you're a shit canner as well.
What a shit canner. I'm excited to see what happens. Hit me with your best shot, Appleton Souther.
I believe in those two guys. That's what I believe in.
Servings per container, 10. So we have 20 servings for 3 of us. That's 7. 7 each. That's good.
With our frighteningly potent cannabis chocolates purchased, it was time to head up the mountain to meet Master Shaman Hamilton Souther. So I've got the email here from the representative of the shaman. You must bring your own cannabis if you are going to participate in ceremony. Is cannabis shamanism? It will be deep, very deep. Happy for you and your partners, Nick. So all joking aside that we did before, I'm genuinely pretty nervous now going up to the shaman's place in the mountains. I get pretty much paranoid as fuck on weed. That's why I stopped smoking it regularly a long time ago. And we're entering into a very much uncharted area mentally.
I feel sick. Might have to pull out of this one, boys.
Cool. So first of all, Hamilton, thanks so much for having us in your beautiful space, your ceremonial space.
You're very welcome.
It's hard to know where to start with someone like yourself because you might have all the answers to all the questions that I could ever have.
Maybe.
So just tell us about your personal story, maybe from childhood up until now.
Grew up in Northern California, an upper middle class background. Went to public school, went to the university, studied anthropology in the university, played sports. Really was not doing anything out of the ordinary until after I graduated from the university. The year after I graduated, I started having spontaneous experiences of seeing spirits, seeing energies, seeing entities, and started to look for an understanding or a solution to what was happening. Kind of by a series of synchronicities, I started looking at shamanism as a way to be able to explain my experience.
The enigmatic Hamilton Souther spent 12 years training in the Peruvian Amazon with a respected shaman who taught him the ways of the powerful native medicinal plant ayahuasca, using the psychedelic substance and ceremony to treat the psychological and spiritual ailments of thousands of people who visited him. These ancient ceremonies are driven by hypnotic chants known as icaros. Upon returning to the USA, Hamilton desired to continue practicing his healing, But given that ayahuasca is illegal here, he transferred his knowledge to the cannabis plant, which had recently become legal in Colorado.
I couldn't believe it. All of a sudden, the cannabis showed up and had spirit, just like I had learned how to practice in the Amazon. And I was communicating with the plant. I wasn't just stoned. I was having a, back and forth communication with the plant. The plant took me on a journey through it so that I could map it and understand like all the different places you could go in it. Cannabis use has a sort of stigma associated with it that has to do with the negatives of it, not something that was being seen as the tremendous medicinal plant that it actually is. Once I started working with it, I started to realize that what I had created was a model for this universe, the physical universe that we live in, the one that we relate to as real, a model of it defined in love instead of separation, pain, and suffering. That as a species, we're originally a loving species that gets transformed or turned into one that's based in conflict. And that we could use this to start to show people how they themselves are also based in love and can change their own lives for the better. That became the birth of, everything that I'm doing now.
Gonzo and Parv sat down with a couple of Hamilton's acolytes to get a further insight into ceremony and the organisation as a whole. Gonz chatted to Tatiana, a lawyer who credits plant medicine with curing her crippling depression. And Parv spoke to college professor Gary, who thanks Hamilton's teachings for making him a more positive presence in other people's lives.
Can you tell us the work of the organisation and where the organisation hopes to go?
Our mission is to spread this philosophy of the universal love. So we want to show people that they live in love and they don't necessarily recognize it. So we want to help people connect to their hearts and live this philosophy so that they can end conflict in their daily lives and their relationships and themselves and their work and their family.
As far as the sort of spiritual teachings of the organisation, how have they affected your own life?
The amount of time it takes me to move from turbulence to peace has dropped from years to seconds by learning to just give everything up to this universe and to center myself in my heart in a way that is consoling. It hasn't changed my day-to-day existence. I mean, I still have the same shit and problems. I have illness, I have a mother dying, I've got family stuff. So nothing is really different, materially speaking, but my experience of it is different. And so that has largely been by, learning from Hamilton and absorbing it. And just somehow just being around Hamilton has changed me.
So what sort of experience are we going to go through now?
The way that the ceremony works is the shamans are guiding the entirety of the ceremony, and a trance state is induced, going into a state of consciousness that's particular to modeling our life as a representation and expression of love. We'll come across fears, we'll come across trepidations and worries and concerns, and the whole purpose is to release them, to liberate ourselves from those concerns so that we don't have to hold on to them and we can have greater clarity about them.
Have you seen people go through a spiritual change that maybe were in a similar position to me, maybe didn't identify themselves as being very spiritual and have found that sort of side to them they didn't know was there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had, a lot of people go into ceremony very skeptical, just open, like wanting to experience the ceremony, but kind of wondering, like, what is the spirit stuff, and having the experience in ceremony of what spirit is and connecting to their hearts and divinity and truth, it definitely opens up more.
You're gonna enjoy it and you're gonna love the experience. It's gonna feel like you're in a playground and there's somebody watching over you and you're gonna be free. So my advice is just enjoy it. You will, I promise.
Awesome, can't hope for more than that.
Welcome back to Unplanned Cooking. Here's something we prepared earlier of the blueberry love bar bites. Parv's just cutting them in half now. There you go, Nick.
Just going to do it humorously like that.
I think people understand what's going on. These is marijuana or edibles? All right, let's
Here
try.
goes.
Here goes everything.
These are really good.
So I'm just going to now give my version of events for what I guess I'll always refer to as the madness on the Mount. We were up in the Colorado mountains in this amazing location. Must have been like a $3 million house with Hamilton Souther, who's a guru, a shaman, and is doing marijuana shamanism. So we went up to the place and we met Hamilton and a bunch of his people that are in his organisation. And we met all them and we did a couple of interviews, and then we had our edibles and went down the mountain to grab some dinner before we came back and got into the ceremony. At the time, I remarked as we were going down, there was definitely like a strange vibe in the house.
Any thoughts about the weirdness of the situation?
If I take this backward step and look at it in the whole situation,
The house, the guy.
living in the house together.
You know what?
And-
She told me they all live in one room down in the basement. They don't even have bedrooms. They're just like, we just chuck mattresses down the basement and we just live down there. It's obviously untouched. Like, they don't use the house. They obviously
house
just
is
like sit in there
completely
and live in it.
yeah.
Like, they're not like living an extravagant life, even though they're in a mansion.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
There's a sense of it. If part of me's thinking like this could be something that's like 6 months down the track. The FBI is out the front, and this has turned into a weird cult thing of people following the cult of.
Well,
And I think what
I
he's
think the
preaching is a positive. It's not like a negative thing, so it doesn't seem. And as they said, there's no ideology.
Exactly, and that's the difference between this and a cult, seemingly,
Yeah.
unless something fucking weird happens in the ceremony, in which case, Seller, you're gonna have to fucking fight our way out of there. It's you. You're our protector. I do feel definitely vulnerable, for sure, because you don't know. You're in their fucking compound. You don't know what the actual. You have no experience with the experience, and they are living in a way that is sort of foreign to me. I ate the edibles. We went down to the restaurant. As soon as I ate a tiny bit of food, I could just feel the edibles make their way through my bloodstream. In the past, I've had panic attacks, and the physical changes that were coming over me, that was like a perfect storm. I was just like, we have to go. I got to go now. Sort of tried to hurry it up. Just sat there, tried to breathe deep and talk myself into not having a panic attack. But when we got up to leave, all the blood just rushed from my head, and I just fucking collapsed on the ground.
You breathing all right?
Probably not quick enough.
Short of breath at all?
Not really. I'm not really feeling any problems with my breath.
I was feeling a bit uncomfortable being in the restaurant like that high. Nick suddenly fell over and that kind of freaked us all out. Luckily there was a lady there who was a trained nurse and she talked it through, and our camera dude, Cello, was a bit more level-headed because he hadn't had the edibles.
We don't want to rush you up either.
Dude, just take as long as you need.
Yeah, just kind of sit.
Yeah, chill, man.
I came to, slowly pulled myself out of it, got up, went out. When we went out the front of the restaurant, it was like, is it safe for me to go back up and participate in what was potentially going to be intense? We didn't even know what it was going to do, ceremony. So up we drove up the mountain.
Wellbeing's massive support.
Yeah, but I don't think,
Along
I'm
with
saying
your
I don't
fucking-
think it's going to kill me, you know what I mean, to do the ceremony.
I won't damage your brain. I just don't want you to have a fucking seizure.
Oh, a seizure. I never thought of that,
But
but
I've got to be the responsible one here, so.
yeah, all right. All right, Scylla.
How do you feel?
Your security right now is
How do you feel?
I'm just as nervous as I was probably when we
Hold on to
first
that
got
water.
here.
Take that with you.
Maybe a bit more. No, actually much more.
Much more nervy.
Yeah. So yeah, if it seems fucking sketchy, just different kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
Just
pull the plug.
Charge, yeah. And Gonzo quipped once again. He said the C word, cult. Walked up to the door. I was fucking shitting myself.
There was definitely things that could back up the evidence of like, oh, this is a cult and they're going to kill us.
How are you?
Pretty high, almost to the point of slightly uncomfortably high.
Okay, good. That's where we want to be.
Next to our chairs where we were sitting, they were putting kind of big plastic bags. I was like, they're going to shoot us in the head, the side of the head, and that's going to be where our brains spray. Like, that's what that's for.
So we're gonna get started. Are you ready? We're going to enter into the medicine world. The purpose of the medicine world is to surround us entirely in 3 dimensions, in every form, love while we go through this experience. The love that I'm referring to is the same love that is inside your heart. When the universe as we know it is defined as love, it awakens what we call medicine inside space, inside you. Medicine are energies and spirit that move you in your awareness to love. They bring healing and realization and understanding. Imagine the golden ring of light extending through the entire universe. And the nexus or a center of our perception is the origin of your awareness. Allow your body to relax. Allow your body to relax. The very first moment we were born into time, and we've been experiencing time as human beings every moment of every day up until now. Right here is a single holistic expression of your own being. Allow your body to relax. Allow your mind to relax. Take another big deep breath in. Allow your mind. First definition is love is here and everywhere. Time is expressed now, and it's all around us.
I guess I was a bit uncomfortable because I just kept thinking, I'm like, well, where am I? I'm in some mountain in the middle of Colorado, based off the information that's been given to me by Nick. I actually haven't looked into any of this myself. So I was like, this is just a bit weird. There's surrounded by these people who just sort of adore this guy Hamilton in almost like a godlike manner. And I'm just submitting to it. And so I started thinking, this is weird. If I was told of this situation before, I'd be like, well, just seems like a scary cult-like situation. It was weird. It started to get more and more weird. Obviously, I was getting more stoned.
Imagine the golden ring of light extending through the entire universe and allow your imagination to open up to the thought of your entire universe.
Started doing the chants and I was just like, fuck this. This is ridiculous. Why am I just submitting to it? Plus, we were really stoned and they're giving us water to drink. Like, oh, great, get him hungry, get him thirsty, drink this, what's gonna happen? It's all absurd, but at the same time, I'm like, maybe this could happen. So I freaked out. I just am feeling really quite uncomfortable, more uncomfortable. Part of me kind of is, seriously, I just might want to, I feel like maybe sitting it out and just getting air outside. I'm just feeling a bit of a mess, to be honest, a bit vulnerable, as it were. And I knew that Stella was there taking care of us, but by the same token, I don't know, there's 8 people, we're in a mountain, who knows what's going on in that place. I just find it strange about the whole situation, being this high and being like, okay, I'm just going to submit to this group mentality. I just think it's weird.
What do you think's weird about it?
I don't doubt the powers of trance-like states. I think that is a possible thing. It's like hypnotism, it happens. So I'm basically trusting that they're using the good powers of hypnotism and trusting that everything else they said is what they're doing it for. In my head, I'm like, there's been fucking Jim Jones, you know, the People's Temple or whatever, I think 920 people, thereabouts, died when they drank the Kool-Aid. Not all of those 920 people could have just been simple-minded sheep that were herded along. Some of them would have been quite opinionated and strong-willed, and they fell under the charms of this guru. Now and then I'd feel like I was getting a bit under sort of the sway of the Icarus and the chants and everything that was going on in the ceremony, what was happening. I'd sort of like open my eyes up and just sort of look around to regather my bearings and maintain control. I was concerned that if I resisted so much and then eventually my brain snapped. It's like imagine you're bending like a rubber band and it's only so much tension takes and then it just snaps and it's irreparable, is what I was worried was going to happen to my brain at some point during the ceremony.
You just sit there and just like kind of relax yourself.
I understand, but I don't want to. My point is I don't want to get relaxed and fall under the trance.
You're not going to fall under any trances.
What's that all about?
Hit me with your best shot, Hamilton, Sutter.
We all agreed that Hamilton, being an authority figure and someone who's done a lot of stuff like this, would know if it's safe for me to participate in the ceremony, given the fact that I just, you know, passed out in a restaurant. I expected some sort of fatherly or some sort of sage advice on it, and he basically laughed in my face. That did not help my paranoia whatsoever. Gonzo got up to leave in a dramatic fashion, but the reactions from the people who were involved to our negative feelings was basically nil. Like, they didn't respond at all. It was very, very strange. They didn't say, don't worry, it's going to be all right. They didn't look at us like like a, you know, spiritual person you imagine would in a reassuring manner, they would just ignore, just fucking stared at us. For the first half of the ceremony, about a good 2 hours, I was extremely paranoid to the point of fear, deep fear. I could hear people moving in the background, I thought, and I just thought that the guns were coming out. They were going to kidnap us ISIS style, and it was going to be basically the biggest news story in the world. 4 Australian journalists get kidnapped by a fucking cult in the hills of Denver who want to spread their message with the world using whatever means possible. So I thought that was going to happen. Maybe they've drugged our water. I was trying to remember, did we crack open the seals ourselves? I think the answer was yes. Then I was thinking, thank fuck we bought the edibles, because if they just gave them to us, fuck knows what could have been in them. So all these things started coming to my mind that made me feel like I think we are safe. It's just paranoia. So basically, I started listening to the Icaros, I started listening to the drums and the chanting. Hamilton was totally channeling Jim Morrison, and I was digging that.
The ceremony takes us inward. We resist the ceremony when we try to stay in normal, ordinary awareness.
Once my paranoid left me, I started to get into it, but I still couldn't focus on his words. All I was getting is a sense of joy that I was over this paranoia. The fact that these people aren't going to kill us is like I had a whole new lease on life. It makes me think that maybe that was the point of the whole thing. That's why Hamilton does show that lack of sensitivity to our earthly problems, because he knows that in order for us to get healing, we have to go through fear and shit and all that and try to work through it. I just found it ironic that the fear that I ended up going through was a fear of him. I thought that was pretty fucking weird, actually.
The thing that ended up being ultimately quite positive for me was just dealing with that concept of my own death. I kind of thought, like, if they kill me right now, I'm not going to give a fuck anyway. Like, I'm going to be dead, so it doesn't matter. Engaging with the actual fact that I'm going to die one day, which I never really think about that much, actually makes me kind of want to enjoy my life more fully, because one day I'm just going to... So past that point, I decided to just totally submit to it, and I just went with it. And from that point, everything changed. Like, it started to feel like a dream. It was like I was in this white room or something, and it was just, felt really cool. Like, I felt like I was in this safe white bubble, and everything shit was like outside of that, kind of rotating around it, and it couldn't really affect me anymore. I was starting to see elements of my life outside, as if I was in like an aquarium, and you know, all bits of me were swimming around, like the dugongs and the fish and stuff. Like, I was looking at all this stuff in my life, and I was starting to reflect on certain things, like about how certain fears really affect my certain decisions, and how insecure I am about certain things, and in certain situations how I worry too much about what people think about me and how that affects my decision-making process, and made me feel like if I did something about that, I could live a more kind of full existence. Yeah, that was quite positive.
I had a really good time.
Yeah, I definitely went through that journey of like serious paranoia. It didn't slowly dissipate, but it sort of stepped down a bit. And then there was about 2 or 3 more steps down throughout, which ended in just like nice realizations, and that paranoia was gone. Yeah.
You did a way better job of describing it than I would have. I would have said something that cheapened it, like tripping balls.
I felt for a moment like I could hear Jim Morrison, like I was sort of at a Doors gig for a little while as well, because your voice is similar to his.
In spirit, he's a good friend. Yeah. We've shared some Icaros over the years.
Thanks, guys.
I guess thanks. I'm still a bit shaken.
Give it a couple days.
Definitely one of the weirdest nights of my life. Hamilton haunted my dreams the following night, chanting Icaros. It was bizarre, interesting. Don't regret doing it at all, and don't really regret the way that I handled myself in the situation, just because I was staying true to myself. And the man was wearing a white skivvy.
Alarm bells were ringing.
Generally, I had a pretty awesome experience. I feel like everything I took away from it was good. They were sort of preaching the love angle, which I don't really mind. Like, I think the world is a bit fucked up and everyone could probably learn to love on everything and everyone a little more. And yeah, I was blazed off my face like I've never been, maybe ever.
So there's 4 men on the mountain, and 4 men off their heads on the mountain.
You're gonna enjoy it and you're gonna love the experience. It's gonna feel like you're in a playground and there's somebody watching over you.